when does the divine masculine finally wake up? Now, if you're watching this, you should probably be more concerned about your own timeline, but for the sake of teaching, let's go through it. The divine masculine only wakes up after he is, or she is, or they are, they, them, done suppressing, rationalizing, and running away, and when they begin to confront, address, show up, and be present. Now, this process is not simple at all, because the universe will provide many learning opportunities for them through karmic relationships, through job losses, through grieving, through end of lifelong friendships and partnerships, and so on. And that eventually forces them to hit that breaking stage, and they begin to experience the magic. Now, if you're someone watching this and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, my person, they're really suffering, they really need my help, I can rescue them, especially if you're a divine feminine who struggled with that all your life. Remember, they need to experience the magic themselves. They need to come to that knowing, come to that realization, come to that experience themselves. If you're on a true twin flame journey, you know what I'm talking about. Let them sit back and enjoy this process of them becoming, because this is their passageway. And what does their passageway into their manhood looks like? Now, this is not something that can be explained in simple words, but their passageway is often triggered by loss and pressure. Now, that loss and pressure is like a simmering big pot of life circumstances that really push them to the edge, because they have to break for the light to get in. If you know, you know. How does that happen? Usually when they start to experience this discomfort of losing you, of piecing together their emotional build-up throughout all their childhood, their inner child wounds, their family dynamics, their dysfunctional habits, and life shake-ups that forces them into this state of reflection. Now, their awakening can only happen when there is a burn-up of their old world, a burn-up of their old contracts, a burn-up of their old karmic habits, people, jobs. Everything has to go into total destruction, right? And before they wake up, there's typically a state of denial, distraction, and emotional unavailability. Now, that phase can last a long time, because most masculines are very stubborn, very easy to trigger, very egotistical, very set in their ways, very pattern-based, very in their way. They don't like to change that, do they? But when the universe steps in, Lordy Lord, have mercy on their soul. And that's when you've healed as a divine feminine, and when you've come into inner union of your Ida, Pingala, Shakti and Shiva, masculine and feminine, you understand, and you actually start to send them love and pray for them, and pray that their awakening becomes easier and easier, because it's so hard. It is so hard for them, and I can only imagine what it must be like to be on the other end. Now, I know as divine feminines, we experience so much as well through the heartbreak, but for them it's different. It's very different, you guys. So if you can find it in your heart, if you can find it in your healing journey, for forgiveness, for surrender, for wishing them well, for sending energetic prayers of love, you don't have to, but you can choose to if you want to, if you have the grace to do that. Now let's talk about what can you do to help speed up this process, to be as painless as possible, so you can focus on you and they can focus on them and live a happily ever after in union? Right? The first thing you need to do is detachment. Now, I cannot highlight this enough. And this doesn't come from I don't care what they're doing. This comes from I care more about me. I care more about my well-being. I care more about what I'm doing. I'm more concerned about with my life trajectory, my goals, my mission. Now, if you're a divine feminine, you should be on mission, right? Right? Not to shame anyone. It's entirely up to you, right? Another thing that you can do is really focus on your ability to harness everything in your power to prepare for the next stage, because their awakening does not come with relational skills. Their awakening does not come with emotional maturity. And the significance of acknowledging that allows you to have more of a grasp and a capability at handling it and building the necessary skills. And this is what I go through in my healing sessions and in my workshops about all of these things, because awareness of all of these stages and awareness of all of these things, and you probably often hear a lot of divine feminines or twin flame coaches or healers talk about a lot about what happens before, but nobody really talks about the aftermath of their awakening, because the awareness of all of these things and the awareness of what's happened and the magic that they get to experience as well does not mean they will be able to develop the relational skills needed to be in a connection. Matter of fact, it takes such a long time to come into connection after their awakening, after their activation, right? And there is quite often we see like a guilt and ego delay, remorse, because they do feel it. They really do, especially if you're a divine feminine who has been wronged, male or female, the person holding their divine feminine energy. Especially if you're on the receiving end of more of the narcissistic behaviors, more of the egotistical patterns, more of the destructive, or the self-sabotage, it goes on and on and on, right? So the awareness of that also comes, and it comes with a lot of guilt, because the puzzle pieces come together for them in a way that glues it in when the light comes through and they get shown certain things about you and realizations, right? So be merciful, be compassionate, be graceful. And it's really for you, because it gives you so much growth on your journey. It gives you so much growth. And if you're divine feminine on mission, this gives you more abilities, right? And it's beautiful. And sometimes during this stage, what happens for the divine feminine is the outgrowing of the connection. Now, if you have been in separation for a long time or a short time, and you've integrated really quickly all of your lessons, all of your gifts, and all of everything, it takes a little while for the divine masculine to catch up, right? And in that phase, you might, when you're edging on potentially meeting a twin ray or a high-level soulmate, you might outgrow the connection. Now, because, we always say the divine feminine leads the way, leads the connection, the divine masculine is held back for quite some time. And it's all by design. It's all up there, you guys. And you know this, if you've come this far, you already know this. You might just need a little reminder. right? You might outgrow the connection, and that outgrowing does not mean that you don't love them. It just means that you've detached so much from the old timeline of connecting to the old version of the divine masculine, right? And you're preparing for the new one to come through. And it takes time. It takes time. It takes alignment. And you hear me talking about alignment so much, especially in my previous video, because these phases and this alignment is about the mental, emotional, and practical alignment of all of these things. And it's like a set of moving puzzle pieces, right? But it can happen, and it will happen if you want it to happen, right? So have no shame in whatever you wish for, whatever you want, because there is no right or wrong way. The decision is entirely yours. And it's beautiful, right? But the more you center your own life and your own growth and your own clarity and your own path and your own standards, whether they rise to meet you or they orbit, it becomes so irrelevant, guys. And anyone they associate with, whether they're karmics or whatever, it becomes so irrelevant because you don't see it in that manner anymore. You really don't. And it's an energetic shift. It's an energetic shift. And this is what I do in my angelic healing sessions. We go in and we do that. It doesn't have to be done the difficult way. It does not have to be done the difficult way. And I always talk about this. You guys are struggling for nothing. Really. Doing your breathing exercises and all of these things, and it could really be as simple as a healing session, whether it's with me or the next, authentic twin flame counterpart, authentic DF, right? Anyway, I think that's enough for me today.